Okay, welcome to session 2 of day 5. So we have been creating a web page where we have multiple sections, and then each section is now being broken down into further subsections, and it goes on and on. We dissected the first section into two subsections of its own, and then the second one has been broken into two, and second of the second has been broken into two, right? So we got 4 subsections to be created initially, the smallest units, and then we started with these two, and then we placed them together into one, and then once this is created, I added that with this as the second, and then this is created and this was created separately, and then put them together to get the final one. Okay. One thing that we could not complete in our previous session was aligning this one to the bottom of the page. So let's understand how we can do it. What I had to do for that is this. First of all, I have to say that this div should be attached to bottom. That means its bottom should match with the bottom of the parent. Okay, so that it is always hitched to the parent's bottom. And then we say bottom margin should be 0, and we simply say bottom 0. Position has to be something other than static, and then the left, right, top, bottom will be respected. Fine. So we had multiple choices for position. We can do relative, we can do absolute, we can do static, we can do sticky, right? And what's the fifth one? Fixed. So each of them have its own behavior, and what we are going to do here is absolute, right? Yesterday we could not find the right example of this, and this is the best situation to use absolute positioning. What is happening with absolute is it will try to put it in its absolute position with respect to a positioned parent. So suppose I remove this for the time being, and if I say absolute, let's keep it. Okay, absolute position is absolute, and left 0, bottom 0. Fine. And I also added width 100%. So let me remove that too. Okay. What will happen with this now? Let's take a look. It went where? To the bottom of the whole page. Why did it go there? Because absolute looks for a parent which has a position specified. Now, if the position is not specified for the parent, it will go up in the hierarchy and find if its parent's parent or grandparent has a position specified. It should be specifically specified, not the implicit one which is saying position static. No, it has to be specified. And then it starts putting it relative to that parent's position. If it is not specified, it starts behaving like the fixed. Fixed works how? It is finding the position based on the viewport, the whole screen. Okay, so right now, when I have no parent having position specified, this absolute is behaving as good as fixed. No, but I don't want that. I want this to be positioned absolutely, but parent is this one, and I want this absolute positioning calculation based on this parent's position. So let's specify some position for the parent. And if I say position, say static, will it make any difference? Static is same as default, right? So let's see. Really not made any difference. So I will do what? I will say relative. And relative, you know, relative is always relative to its default position. And default position is always 0, 0 with respect to its parent. Okay, so I did this, and now what? Voila. it came inside the parent. So as soon as I put relative, and then what I observe is it is now pushed downward, but something went wrong. Earlier it was center aligned, and it looks like it is not center aligned anymore. So was the center alignment disrespected, or something else has happened? How will we know? So to know that, we should always try with the border first. And border will tell me exactly how much width it is occupying, how much height it is occupying. So 1px solid green. Okay. What is happening now? Let's keep it side by side so that we keep seeing the changes. Okay. Now we see the space occupied by this particular div is only this much, which is required in the width and height. That is happening because of absolute positioning. Earlier it was occupying the whole width 100%, but now it is occupying only that much which is needed. I will have to be very clearly specifying the width. So let me specify the width on this particular internal div. And this was the div. I say width 100%. So take the entire width available of the parent. And that is okay, because the parent is occupying 80% of its parent. So that's not an issue for this. Width and height and all dimensions should be generally specified in relative or percentage form, so that when you are resizing your screen, your placement should not get distorted. Okay, so I have put width to 100%, and now it should get expanded in the width automatically. Yes, and now it came back. So center alignment was not broken. It looked broken because it was not getting enough width. Fine. So now I can remove the border, because now it is telling me that it has occupied the whole width and border is not needed anymore. All right. So this is how I get the exact view that I wanted. All right. Let's go back and compare. This is what we wanted, and this is what we have got. Perfect, right? It looks like the height is little too much, so I can reduce the height for the whole section. And I have now here I have put absolute value, because here I cannot really put a relative one. So maybe I will put 150. That will reduce the image size. Okay, 150 pixel. What is happening? The insert came and border. Fine. All right. And the height of the image will reduce, and height of this also will reduce. So it is okay, right? It looks cool. Fine. So the first section is now completely ready, and I can minimize this. Now is the time to create the second section. So I will start creating the second section, section number 2. Okay, I can actually create sections in any order based on the simplicity or my preference, and then I can place them around, right? So second section is having 1 and 2, and second one is table. Third one is also having 2 portions. One is heading, and then second is simple P. So let's try creating the third section first, and then we'll come back to the second and maybe the fourth also. All right, so let's create the third section first. That looks easier. Again, it is. So now I can start top down, which is not a good practice. I will always suggest you to go bottom up. So let's focus on that first. Let's create a bottom up. Let's follow the bottom up approach. And I say, okay, this one is job objective. So I say, okay, capital letter job objective, and it has to be of larger font, center aligned, and having a background color and full width. Fine. So a lot of styling has to be specified. And how can I do that? Style property. Style property, the first thing is center alignment. So I do text align center. Now you know the properties, so you can very quickly pick them. And you know background color. So background color has to be something, say blue, or you can use the RGB color or HSL color with transparency, without transparency. I will keep it blue. Simple. And width has to be 100%. So I will do 100% width. Remember, dimensions should generally be given in relative size. So you should not get font size. I will give this also in percent. Say 1.5 times the usual font. And now let us see the page. Okay, but this looks color is little darker than the blue. So can I do light blue? Yeah, this is better, but I also have to do something. The font color is white. All right. So font color should be white. So let me put that too. And how do I do that? What's the property for font color? Color. Okay, color. And this is also looking a little different font. It is not looking like the Times Roman or at least the serif, right? So I will do sans serif again for this. So how will I do that? Font family. Font family, and I say Verdana, sans serif. This is a usual way. You should end the family with serif or sans serif. Let us see. Yeah, this looks very close to what we actually wanted. Fine. Color is a little different, so you can always play with the color and make it as accurate as possible. Or you can even ask the customer what exactly the color they used, and then you can create that. You don't have to do experimentation with it. All right. So there are various tools which will also help you find the RGB color, exactly the values of R, G, and B. There are scales, there are sliders where you can keep sliding and get the most accurate color that you want, and then apply that RGB units or HSL unit. So there are tools available online to pick the right color values. Don't mind. Okay, so this is job objective section created. Perfect. Now what? The next section is a P tag. So can I just put a P and write everything? And I will type I'm a recent college graduate and so on and so forth. I will just type it for the time being. Something. I will not type full. I'm a recent college graduate seeking a position that ... Okay, fine. So this is a paragraph. All right. Now I have both created. Let's again verify. Cool. So I can now place them together in one div, and that will build the section 3. Okay. So I will create a parent div, and then I will wrap them inside. The rest of the content is wrapped inside. Fine. And for better reading, I will indent it. And I will see it again. But you see, the font also has a different, this P is also having a different font, and that also looks like sans serif. Okay, so what can I do now? I can apply a font style here, or if I say this one and this one has the same font style, I can set the font style in the parent div itself, right? This is going to help me save a lot of typing, because everything later will use that. So it depends. If the entire section is going to have one font, it is better to put it at the top. Cool. So now I have the second section created. But do you see something? Second section has little extra margin here along the font, along the P tag, right? Little extra margin. And here you see it is completely aligned with the border. So how can we put extra space here? There are two choices. We put margin or we put padding. So let's try to use either of them. Actually here both will work, but let's try to use padding because that is a better choice for us. All right. So I will do style of what? The P tag. And what I'm going to do here is padding. And I say padding should be in absolute mostly. All right. So I did 10px and I do this. But it created space all around. I didn't want space at the top. I wanted space only on the left-hand side. But it is putting the space at the top also. In the top, it should be close to the border, right? So now I can do what? I can be very specific and say padding left. Only left padding. Yeah, so the top padding is now gone. Only left padding is available, and I can increase the value so that it is enough. So I say 20 pixel. Yeah, so this looks good, better. So my second, rather actually the third section is also ready. Okay, third section is ready, first section is ready, and now is the time to create the second section. And second section is little complicated because it has a title, but it also has a tabular second section. So let us now get into that. So as usual, I can create a section. So let me create a copy of this because the first portion is almost the same. And what was the font? This does not look like serif. It is also sans serif. So maybe the thing that I'm using in the third section will be good for here as well in terms of font family. And this one is also going to work for me because title is also looking very similar. What I can change is the title heading. And what is that? Personal information. So let me put personal information. Once you start creating one and you create it full, there will be a whole lot of chance of doing a copy and paste. Now for the second part of this second section, I should be creating a table, and it is always good to first create a div of its own, because in this div I can put some special styling. Say I start with width. Div is going to have the 100% width, so I don't have to specify. Fine. And then in this div, I need to create a table, right? A table with 2 columns. So I have started creating a table. Now here, this time I am doing kind of a top-down approach. So because the third section was created, and third section and second section has so many things common, I just started with the third section. And what is going to be different is the second portion of the third section. That is the difference. So basically I had to create only that much. And so I started with the copy of third section, and I'm now building the second portion of the second section. Right. So I'm creating the table, and table should have what? TRs. So I'm creating table rows, and each table row should have a TD, at least one, but I need two TDs here. So I'm creating that 2TD thing right now. Okay, fine. So I have created TDs. I have created one row in the table, and then one row has two columns. And let's put some value here. What I will do is I will build the first row properly, and then I see all other rows are kind of duplicate in terms of presentation. All are similar. So I'm going to reuse that by doing copy paste. Okay. Fine. So let's come back to the page and see how it appears now. Okay, so it has started appearing, but there are some problems. You see, these are next to each other, very close. Here, what you see is a lot of space. So it may change when we will have some very large text, but may not be. Can I make it very specific that, okay, from the first row itself, it should occupy enough width for the first column. And then the font weight should also be bold for the first column. Yes, we can do that. We can do all that by using styles. And where do I put that style? On this TD, because this TD is supposed to have some width. Okay, so I start putting the style for this TD, the first TD. And the first thing that I will do is font weight. And I say bold. Fine, let's come back. With every change, you should keep testing. Yes, so this is now closer to what I wanted, except the widths and its space. So let's me now put a width also. And I know width has to be in percentage usually. I can put, say, I can very well imagine how much it will be, the proportion. So it looks like 80% of the space is left for the second column, and the first column is taking about 20%. So let's keep it 20%. So 20%. Fine. Let's come back and see the page. But it did not make any change. Why is that? Because table is not said how much space you should take in the width, right? Table will take only this much width that is needed to display the content by default. Div takes the entire width by default, 100% width, but table takes only that much which is required to display the content. So I have to now force the table to use the entire width. That means I have to put up a style for table and say use 100% width that is available to you. And what's the width available for this table? The width of the parent, and width of the parent is 100%. Fine. So I'll say use the 100% width of your parent, and parent also has used 100% of its parent's width. So now the whole page width is available to the table. Good. Now you see the second column is shifted because the first column is now occupying 20% of the whole width. Fine. And it looks okay for now. If we will have problem, we will increase the width further. Okay, so it looks good for me. And then what I will do, I will start copying and pasting the row. And how many rows I want? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So 10 rows. So I will duplicate it 10 times, but be very careful. So I'll duplicate it once and then see if everything is going good. I will say gender, and then I will say male for the value. And now I will add another row where the first column seems to have larger value, say personal features, and let us see if it is taking or it is not wrapping up. Features, fine. And in this, I will say eagerness, because the second column will have enough width. Eagerness to learn. I'm just testing, right? That the first column width that we have given 20% is good enough, because I'm going to duplicate it 10 times. And if I have to increase that width value, I'll have to do it 10 times. So that's going to be cumbersome. And so it looks like the space is good enough. 20% space is good enough. Fine. So I will continue with this, and then I can duplicate it 10 times. No issues, right? And I can have larger content too. For example, the personal features itself, it has so much of text to put. So I can put that much, and then we will realize that it is already rolling down or wrapping up into multiple lines in the second. Column. Okay. So now what we see? We are seeing that the first section is created, second section, at least a piece of that has been created, and we can fill 10, we can create 10 rows, because it's like duplicate work, and they're just going to duplicate the TRs and change the content of both TDs in each row, and then it will build. Okay, so the first, second, and third section is now ready. Okay, making sense? Is it difficult or easy? Difficult, easy? I want to hear from you guys. Okay, it is easy. Yep. Oh, Sujit says it is hard. Yeah, Sujit, it is hard for you right now, maybe because you have not practiced enough. But when you will start practicing, you will see there is a lot of duplication of work, and you can reuse your earlier work a number of times. Like we are going to do that for the fourth section. Now, what is in the fourth section? Fourth section and second section are very similar, because fourth section has a header and a table. Second section also has a header and a table. Fine. But the only difference in the second and fourth section is the table here has 3 columns. Okay. So what we will do, we will take the second column's content as it is, and then start modifying the second the table part so that it gets another column in the middle. And then you will see how quickly you can do that, because most of the work is already done in the second section. All right. So what I'm going to do now is take a copy of the second section. All right. And here is the second section, right here. So I am going to build it as it is in the fourth section. So first change is the title or heading, and I say education. Fine. So the second section's heading, fourth section's heading is changed, and I will remove the extra TRs. I will start with the only one TR, okay, to begin with. First column is there, and I have to add another column, and that has to be a TD fine, right? So TD. Now what? Let us see how it appears on the page now. So first column is there. Second column does not appear. Why? Because it has no content. So let me put a star for the time being, because the image that we have looks very close to star. Fine. But we'll find and put up an image properly. Here you go. So you have a star. But you know what? What's the problem now? The second column should have very little width, just to accommodate the image. It does not require proportionate width. Now what happens in table is it will generally proportion the cells equally, proportion the columns equally, and then it will put the content. There are styles to say no, don't do that, proportion it only as per the content width. So you should have a disproportionate column width. That's the style. But however, you have a choice by specifying specific width for each of the TD, right? So you can do that, and I will do it for now instead of using the other style that we have. We have a style for saying don't don't split the columns in equal width. Use put it as per the need. So if I say width for the second column has to be, say, 5%, okay, then it may look better. Okay, so it is closer. And I can put absolute value too, because this is a very small screen, so a very small image that will be required. So I may not say percentage because it will still enlarge and reduce in size. I can say 20 pixels. So keep it simple, right? All right, let's see the content now. And the first column, first row, first column value was 2010, 2013, 2010, 2013. Fine. And the second column had several things. And I will put it in multiple lines, and I will say NHA Trang and anything else. NHA Trang College of Tourism and Arts. Okay. NH Trang College of Tourism and Art, and then few other things, and then it has its own address, right? And then major and graduated and academic degree. Now what you can observe here, this whole thing is not a simple text. There is one text which is in bold, there is these two texts are of a larger font, so maybe you should create a div of its own wrapping these two texts, or I can say H2, but these are of two fonts and font weight has to change, right? So I say H2, fine. I say H2, another H2, and I always have multiple choices for text representation. NHA Trang City, fine. How is it looking like? Let's keep testing with every change. So both are looking very large. H2 looks larger, so maybe H3. Okay, so I should not duplicate the work. I mean, I keep testing. Okay, so this looks enough size, and I duplicate this H3 now, and I say H3, NHA Trang City. But what is the problem now? The second one should be a little less in font weight, right? So I can set a style for the H3 itself. When I say H3, you have a font weight, I say make it light. And I say light. Will it respect that? Let us see. No, it's not. So font weight light is not going to work for me. So H3 is not a good choice for me because I am not able to, in fact, I can make it bolder, but not lighter. So H3 does not look like a good choice. What we shall do now is use div, and then on div I can specify something and then span and span. Okay, so this is one div, and then I say, well, this is maybe another div, or I can use p tag because it is a text. It is always good to use p tag for text content and div tag for rest of the contents. So I use p's. P will also put up a line break. And then here in the div, I can set style, and then I can say font size. Let me remove this. Font size, say 120%. I can keep it relative and then see. Yeah, this is larger and large enough. And on this particular P, I had to make it bold, right? So I can say, now this P should be bold. So I can say font weight, and I can say bold. And down, right? So this gives us a closer look, closer to what I wanted. But spacing is a problem. We can manage that also. How can we manage that? There are multiple ways. So line spacing, paragraph spacing, these are the styles available. Or I can use span instead of P and see if it helps. So I do span, but what will span do? It will keep them in same line, and then that's the problem. So I can do what? After the first span, I can do a break and then see if it is doing something. And this looks closer. The space between the lines are now less because P is adding a space before and after. So this looks good, right? And this is a better choice for me. Fine. So now I can add more content for what? For measure. So this is one row measure, and now I see this is simply bolder than this default font size, but it is bolder. So I can use the B tag also for this part, right? I can use maybe B, and I say measure and B close, and then regular text, which is say office management, and then a line break. Okay, and then the same thing for graduated and same thing for academic degree. So I can do that, graduated and say June 2013, and academic degree and whatever, bachelor's, and so bachelor's. Fine. Now I have the things displayed properly. Okay, so this span did not break, so I have to put a break on every span now. Okay, here also. So after every line, I have to actually put up a break, and that makes it work like this. But you see a problem. How? What is the problem? These two columns, this column has too much of content, multiple lines, and this one gets automatically center aligned. But in the actual display, you wanted them to be top aligned, right? So what can I do now? These are the TDs which will have the vertical align, and I say vertical align remain top. And if it works, I will do it for the second column as well. So let us see. Yes, it worked. So if it works for the first column, it will work in the second column too. Cool. Now it is very close to what we have, except the image, because we have put up a star, which is a text. Instead, we could get an image and then put it as IMG instead of star here, right? You can do that, can't you? You can, I know. Okay, so this is how we are able to create the page section by section, piece by piece. And now we can also add the fifth column or the fifth section. That is too easy. There are two links, left hand side aligned. You can put it in different ways. What we learned today, we have learned things in multiple ways. By the way, to put these in multiple lines, now you see we have a choice. Instead of putting line break spread multiple times and then putting so much, what we can do is we can use the unordered list, and that will put lines for us, right? So let's try that. And I do li, and in each li I can put the content that I wanted. Okay, and similarly I can put another li, and I can put this, the second one. So I don't need the line break, but what's the value? I mean, li is doing all that for me. Okay, so I have removed these two first, say, and let us go back and see the page. But the problem with this is it is doing something abnormal. It is doing what? It is putting this list item marker. Okay, that's a big issue. Okay, so what can I do with it? Font size, oh, something got broke. 120%, and that was for the first two, right? And that got broke. So let me remove these first. Oh, okay. Yeah, so the first two are okay, and actually I had to not put the other three in the same font, right? We made a mistake. So only these two were supposed to be of larger font. The others had to be in a regular font. So the first one and second one should be of larger font. The remaining should be of same font. Fine. Now can we put these in UL? Maybe. Let us try that. And then I have LIs. So one LI,